Food in Brazil? Where does one start? Well, for me, sorry, it is with meat. The meat, whether prime rib, bife de chorizo, filet mignon, picanha, a Brazilian form of rump steak, or one of the many other cuts that I enjoyed along the way, all were tender, succulent, and full of flavour. Cooked as a churrasco, which is similar to a barbecue grill, and usually over a wood pit of flames, you gain the wonderful aromas of the wood, the choice of which is crucial. Popular hardwoods are mesquite for its bold, earthy flavour, and eucalyptus. They burn hot, searing the meat, and slow, which allows for even cooking. The smoky aroma enhances the amazing flavours of the meat, which has also been salted to produce a succulent, juicy and tender centre with a crispy, tasty crust on the outside. Brazil is well known for its churrascarias. At these, the meat is brought around to your table and cut off the large joint, which is still on the rotisserie skewer that it was cooked on. At these restaurants, there are huge buffets with all manner of foods, whatever you would want to accompany the meat. The aim, however, may be just a little salad, as then you can make the most of trying all of the different wonderfully cooked meats imaginable as they pass by your table, before you are just too full. At a restaurant that I enjoyed going to, I had several of their main beef dishes. I was staying near the town for a month. As the meal had been so good and so large that it also did for the following day, a return seemed logical. I also wanted to understand the differences between these particular cuts of meat and how they would be presented. The first I tried was the prime rib black angu na brasa, which translates to on the grill, though brasa can mean embers, and this was definitely cooked over embers. This came with garlic bread, rice, which is standardly served with most meals, mayonnaise de legume, which is vegetables and potatoes chopped up into small cubes in a creamy mayonnaise, a vinaigrette, halfway between a salad and a form of condiment, which in this case was chopped tomatoes. Plus, there was the typically Brazilian accompaniment, farofa. Farofa is a coarse flour meal made from cassava, yucca, mandioca. I had 3 names for the same plant. Recipes vary. Some will have salt, smoked meat, such as bacon or sausage, and spices, garlic or olives. The smoky, slightly salty taste can accentuate the taste of the meat, in particular the churrascas already mentioned, as well as the hearty Brazilian stews. Farofa can also be used as a stuffing for poultry dishes containing nuts, raisins or finely chopped apples and bananas. Cornmeal can also be used for making farofa. Cassava, which can be the base flour for farofa, can also be cooked whole. It is a starchy tuberous root of the tropical yucca tree, not to be mistaken for the yucca, an ornamental plant which has 2 C's. The root must be cooked or pressed, as it is poisonous if eaten raw. In a fried form, I heard it as mandioca, a staple accompaniment and firm favourite with the Brazilians that I met. The second meal that I had at the original restaurant was black angu com angu. This was bife chorizo, as it is called. The first time that I had this was in Argentina, and is termed as Argentinian cut of beef. The chorizo name had confused me, as my association was the spicy Spanish sausage. This cut is supposedly similar to the UK sirloin, or strip steak, as it is called in the US. The aroma of which gained me a friend. The accompaniments were ovo, an egg, which you can often find on top of your meal, anju, couve, arroz, rice, and feijão. Angu is a form of cornmeal, or, depending on the region, manioc flour. This can be turned into a form of polenta. As there have been a large influx of Italians to Brazil, the word polenta can be used, but in the rest of the country, angu is used and derives from the West African language. The result of the cornmeal, or manioc, with water can be solid or a creamy consistency, as the version that I had and that you can see here. As a carbohydrate, it can be served instead of rice or pasta, though I found that the Brazilians don't restrict themselves to one starch per meal and often have several. As a result, for grilled vegetables, this is what came: peppers, sweet corn, and what seemed to be a baked potato. The greens that normally come with meals are called couve. They are basically spring greens in the UK, collard greens in the US. With them you can have garlic, smoked bacon, onion, and in some cases beer is added to the greens. Here you can see the typical meat dish accompanied by beans and greens. Couve à mineira, a typical name for the dish, actually denotes the area that I was staying, Minas Gerais, which means general mines, as in the late 17th and early 18th centuries, gold mining took place in the region. A typical meal here with the traditional feijoada served in a pot with rice, greens and mandioca. A very reasonably priced way to eat is at the self-service establishments. Here, several dishes are on offer as well as salad and desserts. You take a plate and choose whatever you want. Then you go to the person who weighs your meal on the scales. The price is shown on a sign per weight. They link it to a card, which you keep and add to if you want more or another course or a drink. This you then pay on leaving. It's very simple, and depending on what you choose, light or heavy food, it can prove really cheap for a good-sized meal. Meat or fish can be cooked to order, and they are everywhere. I found in Sao Paulo that places with this form of eatery, which can be linked to a grocery or padaria bakery, use a turnstile, which gives you a card to use for your purchases. You then pay the card balance on leaving, using it in the turnstile to exit. A clever form of security for the busy, high-crime risk cities. Feijão is a traditional Brazilian staple food, beans. Whether cooked in a sauce, brown, black, red or white, a side dish usually accompanies most meals. Black bean feijoada is really the national dish of Brazil. You can see it promoted at restaurants on Sundays, as we in England do the Sunday roast. The self-service restaurants in the country, however, are definitely of a slower, more relaxed form. This one, which had a lovely outdoor area, also had the friendly hens running around. A relief, thankfully, that I was eating fish. Trout is very popular in the area, with fishing available at trout-filled fish farms. As mentioned before, many Italians emigrated to Brazil due to poverty in Italy, and Brazil promoting migration to help increase the population. Colonies were formed in mainly rural areas, so it is of no surprise that there are many Italian restaurants. At this particular restaurant, I chose the polpiccione recheado di queijo com tallarin, a meatloaf stuffed with cheese. It was delicious, and another meal that lasted 2 days. On looking at the menu, lasagna and risottos were available. I did have a risotto at another establishment, accompanying a steak. Pizzas, as one can imagine, are also popular. As seen in this menu, the choice was never-ending. It is also at bars, as are the too hot-to-touch meat dishes such as this. The salads are wonderful and huge. Palm hearts are often used in a salad. They can also be eaten on their own. They are harvested from the inner core or bud of certain palm trees. As there may be only one stalk, the entire plant dies, which has become controversial as leads to a deforestation and destructive monocultures. I was amazed at how many Japanese restaurants there were in Brazil. Finding then that the emigration of Japanese to Brazil between 1908 to 1960 had made it the largest population of Japanese outside of Japan. Due to the abolition of slavery in 1888 and the decline of immigration from Europe, especially Italy, Japanese were targeted with recruitment and propaganda to seek a better life in Brazil as coffee growers and farmers. While in Japan, they were suffering economic hardship. The Korean population in Brazil is the largest in South America. South Koreans were said to be helped by anti-communists in the 1960s. There had also been a deal between the two countries to ease the unemployment in South Korea and develop farmlands in Brazil. At first, immigrants did start farming, but many saw no future in it. Of about the 50,000 Koreans said to be in Brazil, 80% live in Sao Paulo. We enjoyed our visit to this Korean restaurant, where you cook some of your own food, as well as enjoy the Korean cuisine, which is definitely popular. The Brazilian meals at restaurants can be a continuation of dishes arriving at the table. All is convivial and lively, enjoyed by families and friends getting together, possibly at weekends to talk and celebrate. The Brazilians love to celebrate. Any excuse for a reunion and a fete, a party ensued. This being one of the lovely things I found about Brazil. Another is the traditional drink, the caipirinha, which you may have seen pop up once or twice in the images along the way. I will, however, look further at foods from Brazil, desserts and drinks, including coffee, in a later episode. I hope that you have enjoyed the information and will subscribe, plus catch up with my earlier episodes, and possibly a thumbs up. Feel free to make a comment or ask any questions. Thank you for watching.